Disrespect is never loud at first. It speaks in a whisper, a subtle smirk, a certain tone, a carefully hidden edge. Ignore it even once, and you've already lost. Most people just laugh it off. They push it aside, hoping it will disappear on its own. But Machiavelli teaches us the exact opposite. He understood a truth that weak people never grasp. Respect isn't something you request. It's something you require. You see, when someone shows you disrespect, they aren't just challenging your pride. They are probing your strength. They're checking to see if you're someone they should think twice about. And every time you let it pass, you're telling them the answer is no. I've studied the dynamics of power for years, and I can tell you this: the people who get taken advantage of aren't always the weakest. They're often the ones who don't understand the hidden game being played. They confuse being kind with accepting poor treatment. They believe that turning the other cheek makes them the bigger person. But in a world where everyone is competing for resources, attention, and respect, being endlessly agreeable works against you. It marks you as easy prey. It signals to others that you're a safe target because you won't push back. Today, we're going deep into the most potent and decisive way to handle disrespect. This isn't about losing your cool or having an outburst. This is about calm, intentional authority. This is about becoming a person who makes others hesitate before they overstep. I'm going to share 5 psychological strategies that will completely change how people treat you. These aren't just feel-good theories that sound nice. These are proven methods that deliver real results. By the end of this video, you'll understand why silence can be more powerful than shouting, why consistency builds a formidable reputation, and why the most influential people are often those who need the least from others. You'll learn to see disrespect as valuable insight into a person's true character and how to use that knowledge to your advantage. This isn't about becoming cruel. It's about becoming someone who naturally commands respect simply by how they carry themselves. Someone who doesn't have to ask for respect because they already receive it. Now, I want you to leave this affirmation in the comments. Disrespect sharpens my focus. But before we begin, let me ask you something. How many times have you replayed a moment of disrespect in your mind, thinking of all the things you could have said? How many times have you felt that burning frustration of being mistreated and not knowing how to respond? That ends today. Today, you learn the rules of a game that most people don't even realize they're in. Let's start with what most people completely misunderstand about disrespect. They think it's a direct punch to the face, obvious, blunt, impossible to miss. But that's not how clever people operate. That's not how the real game is played. True disrespect is like a snake. It moves in quietly, hidden behind what seems like a harmless joke, friendly teasing, or an innocent mistake. It's the colleague who constantly talks over you in meetings. It's the friend who makes a sharp comment and then says, "Just joking." It's the family member who brushes off your opinions with a dismissive gesture. Here's how it usually begins. First, they test you with light teasing. Maybe they joke about your appearance, your decisions, or your capabilities. They are watching your reaction closely. If you laugh along or shrug it off, they've learned a crucial lesson about you. You're a safe target. Next, the jokes become a little sharper, a little more personal. The dismissive body language becomes more noticeable. They interrupt you more often. They start leaving you out of conversations or decisions. Each step is small enough that calling it out feels petty, but together, they form a clear pattern of systematic disrespect. If you keep tolerating this, thinking you're being the mature one, something devastating happens. You train them to see you as someone who accepts being treated poorly. You become their emotional punching bag, the person they can vent their frustrations on without any consequences. I've watched this pattern ruin relationships, careers, and self-esteem. Good people who believed kindness would prevail found themselves surrounded by users, manipulators, and bullies who saw their kindness as a weakness. Machiavelli understood this perfectly. He lived in a world where showing weakness could literally end you. He knew that people are always testing each other, searching for weaknesses to exploit. He wrote extensively about how power operates in reality, not in theory. Here is a truth that weak people struggle with. Silence at the wrong moment is a form of approval. When you say nothing in the face of disrespect, you aren't being mature. You're being complicit. When you laugh at jokes made at your expense, you aren't being a good sport. You're giving permission for more. When you let something slide just this once, you aren't being understanding. You're teaching them that your boundaries are just suggestions, not rules. You're showing them that you don't value yourself enough to protect your own dignity. This is why some people spend their whole lives being overlooked, while others command respect wherever they go. It's not about luck, appearance, or natural charm. It's about understanding how human psychology truly works and acting accordingly. People who are respected understand that every interaction is a negotiation. Every conversation has underlying power dynamics. Every relationship has an unspoken hierarchy, and that hierarchy is built through thousands of small moments where respect is either given or taken away. Most people are playing checkers, while a few are playing chess. The checkers players react emotionally to every move. The chess players are thinking several steps ahead, building patterns that serve their long-term goals. Today, you learn to play chess. The first tool in your arsenal isn't something you say, it's the absence of sound, but not a weak silence, a strategic silence. Understanding this distinction changes everything. Weak silence is when you don't respond because you're scared, hurt, or unsure what to say. This kind of silence makes you look like a victim. People sense your inner turmoil, and it encourages them to push further. Strategic silence is entirely different. It's when you consciously choose not to respond as a calculated move. You aren't hurt or confused, you are assessing. You are making them wait while you decide if they are worth your energy. Here's how it works in practice. Someone makes a disrespectful remark to you. Instead of immediately defending yourself, explaining your position, or snapping back, you simply stop talking. You look at them directly. You let the silence stretch until it becomes uncomfortable. During that pause, something powerful happens in their mind. First, they realize their words are hanging in the air with no response. The conversation has stopped and it's their fault. Second, they start to wonder if they crossed a line. Third, they begin to fill that empty space with their own anxiety and guilt. Most people are afraid of silence. They feel compelled to fill it with words, excuses, or nervous laughter. But when you are comfortable with silence, when you can sit in it without flinching, you hold power over those who can't handle it. Machiavelli said, "Since love and fear can hardly exist together, if we must choose between them, it is far safer to be feared than loved." This silence creates a type of fear, not the fear of physical harm, but the fear of unpredictability. They can't read you. They can't predict your reaction. And unpredictable people are seen as dangerous because you never know what they might do. Let me give you a real example. You're in a group conversation and someone makes a joke at your expense. Everyone laughs. The typical response is to laugh along, joke back, or defend yourself. Instead, you do nothing. You just look at the person who made the joke with a completely neutral expression. The laughter fades. The silence grows. People start to feel uneasy. The person who made the joke realizes their comment didn't land as they expected. They might even apologize or try to explain themselves, all without you saying a word. You've shifted the entire dynamic of the room. This works because you've broken the expected pattern. They expected you to play along with their disrespect. Instead, you gave them nothing to work with. You became a mirror, reflecting their behavior back at them and forcing them to confront what they just did. The beauty of this approach is that you maintain complete control. You aren't reactive. You aren't emotional. You are just present. And that presence becomes powerful because they can't manipulate or predict you. Remember, silence is not absence. Silence is control. It's the calm before the storm. It's the unspoken question that demands an answer. And in a world full of people who can't stop talking, the person who knows when to stay quiet holds immense power. But here's the key. Your silence must come from a place of strength, not weakness. You're not staying quiet because you're hurt or don't know what to say. You're staying quiet because you are choosing to withhold your response until you decide they deserve one. Leave this affirmation in the comments. My silence speaks volumes. Practice this in small situations first. When someone makes a thoughtless comment, just pause. Look at them. Let them feel the weight of their own words. You'll be amazed at how quickly people start choosing their words more carefully around you. This is where most people destroy their own power. They set a boundary once and think that's enough. They handle disrespect well one time and expect people to remember forever. But boundaries mean nothing if they collapse the first time they're seriously tested. Human nature seeks the path of least resistance. If your boundaries have gaps, people will find and exploit them. If your standards are negotiable, people will negotiate them down to nothing. This is why consistency is everything. Not just in big moments, but in every single interaction. Every time someone disrespects you, your response must be predictable, calm, and unwavering. Think about the people in your life who command the most respect. I guarantee they are consistent in how they handle poor treatment. They don't let things slide sometimes and get upset other times. They have clear standards and they enforce them every single time. Now think about the people who get walked all over. They are inconsistent. They let small disrespect pass, hoping to avoid conflict. They make exceptions for people they like. They have good days and bad days when it comes to standing up for themselves. This inconsistency trains people to keep testing their limits. It's like a slot machine. Sometimes they get a reaction. Sometimes they don't. The uncertainty actually encourages more attempts because people wonder if this time will be different. Machiavelli understood this deeply. He knew that power is built through repetition. Every time you enforce your standards consistently, your reputation grows stronger. Every time you make an exception, your power weakens. What happens when you become relentlessly consistent in handling disrespect? People begin to anticipate your reactions. They know that certain behaviors will lead to specific consequences. This predictability creates caution, and caution creates respect. Let me give you some examples of what consistency looks like in practice. Someone interrupts you in a meeting. Every single time this happens, you stop talking, look at them, and wait for them to finish before you continue. You don't sometimes ignore it and sometimes call it out. You always respond the same way. Someone makes jokes at your expense. Every single time, you don't laugh. You don't smile. You don't play along. Your face remains neutral, and you continue the conversation as if they didn't speak. No exceptions. Someone tries to dump their emotional problems on you when you're busy. Every single time you say something like, "I can see you're upset, but I can't talk right now." You don't sometimes listen out of guilt and sometimes set boundaries. Machiavelli said, "Men are so simple and so much inclined to obey immediate necessities that a deceiver will never lack victims for his deceptions." The immediate necessity here is avoiding your consistent consequences. When people know that disrespecting you will always result in the same firm response, they start policing their own behavior around you. They learn that you're not someone who makes exceptions. But here's the part most people struggle with. Your consistency can't just apply to big violations. It has to cover the smallest infractions too. The slight eye roll when you're speaking, the dismissive tone, the subtle body language that shows contempt, all of it gets the same treatment. All of it receives the same measured, consistent response. This might seem strict to people who are used to letting things slide, but it's actually more respectful than the alternative. When people know exactly where they stand with you, they can adjust their behavior accordingly. They don't have to guess if today is a day you'll tolerate disrespect. They know you never will, so they don't try. It's the inconsistent people who create the most confusion and drama. Nobody knows what to expect from them. Sometimes they're doormats. Sometimes they explode. This unpredictability makes everyone walk on eggshells. But when you're consistently firm about your standards, people relax around you. They know the rules. They know what's acceptable and what isn't. This clarity actually makes relationships easier, not harder. Now, I want you to leave this affirmation in the comments. My standards never bend. Start small with this. Pick one type of disrespectful behavior you currently tolerate sometimes. Maybe it's interrupting. Maybe it's dismissive comments. Maybe it's being kept waiting. From now on, respond to that behavior the exact same way every single time it happens. Watch how quickly people's behavior around you changes when they realize your boundaries aren't negotiable. Now we come to what separates the truly powerful from everyone else. When someone disrespects you, your response shouldn't just match their action, it should be more significant. Why does this work? An ordinary response is forgettable. If someone makes a sharp remark and you make one back, it's just another argument. If someone dismisses you and you argue, it's just another disagreement. These moments blend together in people's memories. But if someone makes a sharp remark and you respond with complete emotional distance, that's unforgettable. If someone dismisses you and you create space and limit contact, that leaves a permanent mark. This doesn't mean losing control or having an outburst. Quite the opposite. It means your response should be calculated to create a lasting impact. The goal is to make them remember the consequences of crossing you every time they consider doing it again. Let me give you some concrete examples. Someone makes a joke at your expense in front of others. Instead of laughing along or joking back, you look at them with complete seriousness and say, "That wasn't acceptable." Then you continue the conversation as if they aren't there. Or even more powerfully, you say nothing at all and simply excuse yourself from the situation. No explanation, no drama. You just become unavailable to them. A friend consistently shows up late, showing they don't value your time. Instead of complaining or joking about it, you start making plans without them. When they ask why they weren't invited, you simply say, "I didn't think you'd be interested, since you always seem to have other priorities." The key is that your response should create discomfort that lasts longer than their original disrespectful action. They should find themselves thinking about your reaction days or weeks later, wondering if they went too far. Machiavelli said, "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." The goal here isn't to be cruel for its own sake. It's to be memorable. When someone thinks about disrespecting you in the future, they should immediately recall the last time they tried it and the uncomfortable consequences that followed. This approach works because it violates people's expectations. They expected you to play along, to be a good sport, to take it. Instead, they got ice. They got distance. They got a clear lesson in cause and effect. Most people respond to disrespect with either passive acceptance or explosive anger. Both are forgettable because they're predictable. The passive response invites more disrespect. The angry response makes you look unstable and harms your reputation. But a calm, measured, and significant response, that's something they'll remember. That's what makes them think twice before testing you again. Leave this affirmation in the comments. My actions send a clear message. Think about the last time someone disrespected you and you let it slide. What would a more decisive response have looked like? What consequence would have been memorable enough to prevent future violations? Start applying this principle to new situations as they arise.
Here's something most people miss about power and respect. Your actions matter, but your aura matters more. The way people perceive you before you even speak determines how they'll treat you. You need to build an image of someone who shouldn't be tested, not through aggression, but through controlled intensity, through the quiet suggestion that crossing you would be a costly mistake. This image is built through dozens of small, consistent signals over time. The way you carry yourself when you enter a room, the way you speak, measured, deliberate, never rushed, the way you handle conflict when others are watching, the way you respond to both praise and criticism with equal composure. When someone sees you shut down disrespect with calm precision, they make a mental note. They file you under people not to mess with. This reputation starts to precede you. Think about the people in your life who command natural respect. They don't have to announce their standards. Their presence communicates them. They don't have to threaten consequences. Everyone already understands there will be consequences. This isn't about being obviously intimidating. It's about being someone who clearly has their act together. Someone who knows their worth and expects others to recognize it. Someone whose time and attention feel valuable because they treat them as valuable. Machiavelli said, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are. What you want to appear to be is untouchable." Someone who has better things to do than argue with people who don't understand boundaries. Someone whose respect must be earned, not assumed. Someone who makes calculated decisions about who gets access to their energy. Here's how you build this image practically. Become selective about who gets your warmth, your time, your attention, and second chances. This selectivity communicates that these things have value. When disrespected in public, your response should be swift, calm, and definitive. No emotional reactions, just cold consequence delivered with the efficiency of someone who has dealt with this before. People should feel a slight tension before saying something disrespectful to you, not because you're aggressive, but because you're clearly someone who has standards and isn't afraid to enforce them. Your reputation should precede you. When people mention your name, others should nod with respect, not roll their eyes. This doesn't happen by accident. It happens through careful, consistent cultivation of how you show up in the world. Leave this affirmation in the comments. My presence commands respect. Start paying attention to how you show up in different situations. Are you consistent? Do you project strength or neediness? Do people naturally respect your boundaries, or are they constantly testing them? Your answers will tell you what image you're currently projecting and what needs to change. Now we move to the advanced level, where you stop taking disrespect personally and start seeing it as valuable data about the people around you. This shift changes everything. Every time someone disrespects you, they're giving you information about their character, their insecurities, and their true feelings toward you. Instead of getting emotional, start collecting this intelligence like a scientist. Who disrespects you when you succeed? That's envy revealing itself. Who disrespects you when other people aren't around? That's cowardice. Who disrespects you to your face but acts nice when others are present? That's calculated manipulation. Who disrespects you when you set boundaries? Those are the people who benefited from you having none. Machiavelli said, "Keep your friends close and your enemies closer, but first you need to identify who your enemies actually are." Many people spend years being friendly with individuals who secretly resent them because they ignored the subtle signs of disrespect. This intelligence becomes incredibly valuable for making decisions about relationships, career moves, and life choices. You now know who to trust, who to exclude from opportunities, and who to watch carefully. This perspective is liberating because it removes the personal sting. Instead of thinking, "How dare they treat me this way?" you start thinking, "Thank you for showing me who you really are before I trusted you with something important." Disrespect becomes a filter that helps you identify low-quality people before you invest too much time, energy, or trust in them. It's like a security system that alerts you to threats before they can do real damage. Most people ignore these warning signs because they want to believe the best about everyone. They make excuses, hoping it was a bad day or a misunderstanding, This tendency to give people the benefit of the doubt repeatedly gets them hurt. Smart people pay attention to patterns. They notice when someone consistently treats them worse than they treat others. They use this information to make informed decisions. Machiavelli understood that human nature is predictable once you know what to look for. People who disrespect you in small ways will disrespect you in bigger ways if given the chance. People who violate minor boundaries will violate major ones when it serves them. Treating disrespect as intelligence makes you emotionally resilient. When someone disrespects you, you don't take it as a reflection of your worth. You take it as information about their character. This keeps you calm, analytical, and strategic instead of reactive and emotional. Leave this affirmation in the comments. Disrespect reveals the truth. Start keeping track of patterns in how people treat you versus how they treat others. Notice who consistently shows you less respect and ask yourself what that reveals about their true feelings. Use this information to make better decisions about who deserves your time, trust, and energy. Let me share something that will change how you see disrespectful behavior forever. Most disrespect isn't really about you. It's about the person doing it. Understanding this psychology gives you incredible power because you can predict and counter their behavior. People disrespect others for predictable reasons: insecurity, a desire for dominance, fear, or simply out of habit. What's fascinating is that most people who dish out disrespect can't handle receiving it. They're used to being the aggressor, not the target. When you respond with calculated coldness, they become confused and uncomfortable. This happens because disrespectful people typically choose targets they perceive as weak or unlikely to fight back. When you don't react as expected, when you don't get flustered or defensive, you disrupt their entire strategy. They were counting on you to either take it quietly or respond emotionally. Both would have served their purposes. But when you respond with strategic silence, consistent boundaries, and calculated consequences, you flip the script. Suddenly, they're the ones who look petty and aggressive. This is why these techniques are so effective. They're designed to work with human psychology, not against it. They turn people's own disrespectful tendencies into weapons that backfire on them. Understanding this also helps you stay calm. When you realize their behavior is about their own issues and insecurities, it becomes much easier to respond strategically instead of emotionally. You're not trying to convince them to like you. You're simply making it clear that disrespectful behavior comes with costs they won't want to pay. Most people who habitually disrespect others are looking for easy targets. When you make yourself a difficult target, someone with firm boundaries and real consequences, they usually move on to easier prey. This isn't about being mean. It's about understanding how human dynamics actually work and responding accordingly. Kind people can have boundaries. Nice people can demand respect. Good people can refuse to tolerate poor treatment. The techniques we've discussed aren't just for handling individual incidents. They're for fundamentally changing how people perceive and interact with you over time. This transformation requires patience and consistency, but when it happens, it's permanent. As you consistently apply these principles, your reputation begins to precede you. People start to hear about you before they meet you, and what they hear is that you're someone who should be treated with respect. This reputation becomes self-reinforcing. When people expect to respect you, they usually do. When they've heard you don't tolerate poor treatment, they're less likely to test your boundaries. When they know crossing you has real consequences, they think twice before trying. This doesn't make you feared or disliked, quite the opposite. People generally respect others who respect themselves. They're drawn to individuals with clear standards and the backbone to maintain them. They prefer dealing with people whose boundaries are clear and consistent. Over time, you'll notice the quality of people in your life improves. Low-quality individuals will drift away. High-quality people will engage more. This shift compounds over time. You find yourself surrounded by people who naturally treat you well, because those are the only types who stick around. Your professional life improves because colleagues see you as someone who commands respect. Your personal relationships become healthier because you no longer tolerate partners or friends who don't value you properly. Every time you maintain your standards, you're investing in your future self. Every boundary you enforce is a deposit in the bank of your reputation. Every consequence you follow through on is a building block in the foundation of respect you're constructing. The person who learns to handle disrespect with calculated control becomes someone others naturally respect. They become someone who doesn't need to ask for better treatment because they've created the conditions that make it inevitable.